Hello, welcome. My name is Gil Penalosa, and this is Cities for Everyone, the webinar, where every other Tuesday I invite fascinating people to share their stories, their knowledge, their experience, so that all of us can become better, passionate advocates. Advocates on what? On creating cities that are more equitable, more sustainable, and more fun. Originally, I'm from Bogota, Colombia, but I've been living in Canada for 26 years. And 20 years ago, I created 880 Cities, an NGO. And over the last decades, I've been fortunate to have worked in over 350 cities around the world. And this webinar is a way of giving back, inviting mostly people that I have met around the world, friends, and to share. And it's always free and hopefully always interesting. Today, we have an amazing session on placemaking. Everybody talks about placemaking, but what is it? How to do it? How to make sure that it's effective? So we're going to be talking about the heart of place. And Madeleine Spencer, who's co-director of Placemaking USA, and TJ Maguire, a director at Canada's Evergreen, who's also co-director of Placemaking X Summit in Toronto, are our guests. They are going to be presenting. Madeleine, TJ, thank you very much. And here we have people from all over the world, hundreds and hundreds, eager to learn from you. And welcome, TJ, Madeleine, welcome.
Hello,
Thank
Gil.
you.
So nice to have
Gracias.
both of you. We have two perspectives, two different countries, but both of you have lots of knowledge and lots of experience. Madeleine, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so um, to begin, the topic we have is the heart of place. And the thing that I've been really grappling with is this idea of belonging. And I think that it's a very profound and a very complex, and it also resonates really deeply in our shared human experience. And because it's become a kind of buzzword in the industry of community development, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, really, what is it that helps and makes people have this sense of belonging? So I started to ask people around me what it was that instilled a sense of belonging. And there was a particular narrative when I began asking, and a friend of mine by the name of Senora Arianes, who had a small business in our downtown and sold furniture for many years, I asked her what was it that gave her her first sense of belonging. And she told me this story about how her family had moved from Parral, Mexico, to America, and she lived in a like on a road in Riverside County in California. And something about this rural community, they didn't have the road paved already for them. So the city had come out and said the community is going to have to pave the street in front of their houses. And she said that there was this moment where everybody gathered their materials, they got prepared, and they came out together on a weekend and they began to pave the road of their street. And through this story, she said that they began to know each other. And she said this was the very moment that she felt her first sense of belonging. And one of the things that I really noticed about the story that she told is that it shared with me that belonging seems to be intrinsically linked to participatory action, and also how it intertwines the individual journey into kind of a collective fabric of community. So, reflecting on this insight, I really began to explore in placemaking what are these grassroots placemaking projects that really embody the participatory practice that's embedded in fostering this essence of belonging. And I figured out that there's three main archetypes that I really saw emerge around the different kinds of placing making projects that I had seen. And it kind of really beautifully encapsulates the spirit of community connection. And they're kind of, these stories kind of go back to tales that we might have been told as children. One of them is like the tale of stone soup, where everyone in the community brings something to the pot and ends up creating a beautiful pot of food. And there's another one where there's the barn raising, the idea of the barn raising, where everybody comes together and builds something together. And the final one is something that I've witnessed recently in Asheville, North Carolina, is that these catastrophic events such as Hurricane Helene, how it actually brings people together in this kind of social solidarity that arises in the aftermath of the catastrophe. So there were three specific stories, and unfortunately, I don't have the images, which I would love to be able to share with you, but I'm going to try to paint the picture of these three placemaking stories with words for you. So the very first story is a story called Sherritt Square. And Sherritt Square starts with, we live in a society, in a world that's really segmented by urban planning and rigid city layouts. And there's this young architect named Mark who embarks on a journey to explore the essence of community. And he travels through various cultures and landscapes and discovers that there's something wrong in his own town. Oh, you do have some images here. Okay. So if we move forward, this is Senora Arianes' family, who I told the first story about. And you can move forward with that. And the second story that I'm telling is about Mark. Okay, so in this story, this man travels through various cultures and landscapes, discovers that there's this profound sense of loss that he notices in the absence of a village center and a community crossroads, and also the heart of social interaction. And so he recognized that modern architecture, which is influenced by the Roman grid, had stifled this vibrant communal space that fosters human connection and collaboration. And he was determined to revive this sense of community. So when he returned home after his travels with this vision, he went and in his backyard, he actually built a tree house, a tea house. And it's a space where all the neighbors from the whole neighborhood would come and gather, share stories, and reconnect. And the simple structure brought together a beautiful social life for the community. Well, a year in, the city says that it's not zoned correctly and they have to tear it down. And they're so upset that they have to tear this down that it ends up that even though they tear down the structure, the dream was there now, and the community came to the center square of the community, and they decided to lock arms, and they created this idea to paint this intersection. So because they were threatened by the city officials, their passion and collective effort started to create this center square. And what's so beautiful about the central square is on one corner, they built a children's play area so that kids from the whole neighborhood could come out and play there. And on another corner, they built a free library. And on another, they created a cob bench. And on another, they had a resting spot with a tea stand where anybody from the neighborhood could fill up the hot water and they could all come out for tea. And this vibrant intersection became like the first ever intersection repair project in the US. And it served as a prototype. Since then, they have this thing every year. A law has been changed, and they now have the ability to do what's called the Village Build Convergence, where over 18 communities across all of Portland now are creating together these similar intersection repairs. So I don't know if there's any more images in this section, but it shows some of the different, this is the children's play area. And if you move forward once more, let's see. Yes. Anyway, okay, so the second story that I'm going to share, which is called Sowing Seeds of Change. In this story, it's about a bustling city where you have a passionate young teacher who envisions this transformative project, which is an urban agricultural space that's dedicated specifically to foster and neurodivergent youth. And understanding the challenges of these young individuals that transition out of the system around age 18 and often get lost. They say that quite a few foster youth end up in prison. She was really seeking to create a kind of environment that would not only impart valuable skills for the workforce, but also fostered personal growth and connection to nature. So her vision soon intersected with a wonderful entrepreneur, Dina, who ran a food business and operated an incubator kitchen nearby. And recognizing the potential synergy between the two and their shared aspirations, they actually began searching for a suitable location to bring to life this idea. And so, after exploring a series of different options and working with Placemaking US, we helped create a what we call the United Streets of America project. They discovered a piece of land just outside of the city, and even though it was less than ideal, it became a blank canvas for them to actually figure out exactly what they wanted. And with those plans, they had the opportunity to show their own city the plans, and all of a sudden the city was very excited, and to their surprise the city offered them a piece of vacant property to under a freeway so that they could actually build the garden and urban agricultural site that they wanted. So what ended up happening is they secured the site, and the duo launched their first cohort of students, and they came together and had the transformative task of converting the cement parking lot into a thriving urban farm. And all of a sudden, the teamwork created passion flowers along the fences, mulberry trees that would bear fruit in due time. They established a sensory garden contrast, and they poured tons of dirt onto the ground that was cement and put mushrooms in it to actually recreate the soil. And they put together a composting system. And art also played a really vital role because the walls of this needed to be repainted. They were able to acquire a storage container and build small plant nurseries. And soon after, all of these youths were there, and in just 2 years' time, we were able to witness the full transformation of the space, which became a beautiful urban farm. And in that transformation, we also saw they had chef competitions there now. They had uh, all different kinds of tours where the local youth knew more about the biological and ecological cycles of the grounds. And we got to see this collective vision of unwavering dedication where all of these youths together had created this beautiful testament to the power of community collaboration. And you can move forward one more. I don't think that all the pictures came through for you, Gil, but um, then there is one more story, or I actually have a couple more stories. The next story is more of like this stone soup, and it's the Firehouse Farm crop swap. And this is another beautiful story where there's a vibrant neighborhood, and there's two gentlemen, um, Jeff and Ryan, who are struck with this idea to activate a vacant, defunct fire station. And it's actually owned by the city. And together they decide to have a crop swap where they outreach to all of the neighbors in the community who love and celebrate local food. And in the very beginning, it starts with about 12 people who come out and they share this brilliant table of things that they've taken from their backyard, and they begin to share with one another. And soon this inspires more and more communities to start coming out on the first Saturday of every month, bringing food. And the crop swap grew, and so did the community engagement. And what was an initial gathering turned into like 50 or more people that were sharing fruit their labor, their knowledge, their skills. And the spirit of collaboration fostered this kind of infectious enthusiasm for local food. And then recognizing what was going on with this community, they started to move beyond this and just had agricultural aspirations. And the group embarked on their next phase of the journey, which was a victory garden that was planted in the open space of the fire station. And it served as sort of a symbol of resilience and communal effort. Then they planted trees, an orchard in the back, and they began to further enhance their knowledge and skills. They partnered with a local college, and there was the training of 50 master gardeners. And then the momentum continued to produce homemade jams, harvested fruits. There was baking that happened. People brought sourdough starter and shared with their neighbors how to make bread. Fiber artists started to come out, and the kind of multiplier effect of the efforts had taken root. So the crop swap transformed from a simple gathering into this kind of flourishing hub of creativity and innovation. And um, the former fire station that was once a neglected building on the corner became kind of a place that had community spirit and sustainable living. And so this is another example of that kind of collaborative participation and spirit. And there's this very organic process that occurs in each of these examples. The very last example that I wanted to share was something that I very recently, like in the last couple weeks, I was able to meet a woman from what's called Bears Barbecue, who, because her husband and child were in relief work, they saw that the hurricane was coming before they did. So on the ground, and they knew that she had a barbecue house. And so they were able to call in World Kitchen to come and set up at their barbecue house. And when the storm hit, because these seasoned disaster workers were aware of this impending crisis, they were able to take and turn the Bears Smokehouse Barbecue into a World Central Kitchen for the whole of the Asheville community. And what happened is they ended up serving over 40,000 meals a day to all of the different parts of the rural community. And it was a beautiful project where over 1 million meals were shared, and it took that kind of social connection that allowed that to happen. Those are basically three stories of participatory action that I wanted to share as examples.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. Madeleine, we'll have Q&A afterwards. Look, even with the problems we have with images, look how happy people are. And now we have TJ Maguire. He for some reason, this is the first time ever that we have a technical issue. Oh, look at all those hearts. Thank you. I love the community. I always look forward, even if I travel, I arrange all my travel so that I am open. Like this is 5 p.m. in Paris, where I am working this week. Last week was Hanover, but I'm connected. Now, TJ, so I have your PowerPoint. You just tell me click, and I will click as you need.
Yes, I'll make people feel good. If it happens to them, I kind of organize conferences for a living, and it happens to me too. So
So
there we go.
TJ works for
It's
Evergreen.
good.
That is a wonderful organization. So yeah,
Yeah,
as part of your presentation, and afterwards,
perfect.
Madeleine and TJ, you'll tell us about the organization. Go ahead, TJ.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you very much, Gil, for having us, and beautiful stories, Madeline. Look forward to the chat in about 14 minutes. I'd love to say that I'm coming to you from Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I'm also very close to Peggy's Cove, which is where this beautiful photo is from. Um, and Ronica, I'm very similar to Gil's style of presentation. Lots of slides, so feel free to go next. Or if you can give me control, that would be amazing. But we'll see. Gil, I don't know if you remember 12 years ago, you presented in Halifax and inspired a few of us to get together within 3 days. Next slide. And we took advantage of a street closure on our downtown street and cleaned up our main shopping street downtown, Barrington Street, and even invited the fire department to come down and hose it down. And a friend of mine, Ute Lee, is there painting the infrastructure with paint we received from the bid. So
I just made you
anyway,
co-host. Maybe you can click.
okay, let's try. Nope. Okay,
Okay, yeah, just say go and I'll
next.
click.
It's great. We'll do. So next slide. And whenever I just stop talking, you can switch the slides.
Okay.
I'm flying through the slides on this one. Yeah, so that was 12 years ago. After that, I worked for about 10 years on the Halifax waterfront as their urban designer with an incredible team of passionate folks. A year and a half ago, I got to join this team. You might be able to guess who I am. I'm the tall guy in the back. Yeah, an incredible group of people at Evergreen. And next slide. And what we do is we transform public spaces for the health of people and the planet. Next slide.
Let's
And
move
we have
your hand up and I'll know.
what's that?
Move your finger up and I'll do your hand up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay, perfect. Watch for my finger.
Teamwork.
So yeah, so we're focused on these four streams: tackling the climate crisis, improving health and well-being, reconnecting children to nature, and also strengthening local communities through our work. Our prime example is the Evergreen Brickworks, which is a former brick factory in the Don Valley. Next slide. It was transformed over the last 15 years or so to a regenerative public space where we demonstrate how this is possible. Next. We even have a weekday farmers market and in the winter times, very popular DJ skate nights. And we're working with organizations and individuals all over Canada, transforming public spaces. One example is the Climate Ready School. We're doing many of these, but this is from my second day on the job. Actually, we went to visit the school in Milton, just west of Toronto. And it was a school site actually designed with and for the children that attended the school. Heidi Campbell on our team is an incredible knowledge expert and guru around participatory design with kids. Another project I'm very passionate about and very excited to be a part of is the Wajawian Friendship Center project in Halifax. And we are mostly involved in the landscape in the back of the site. But yeah, very excited to be working with Fathom and the Friendship Center on that. With my other hats, I am collaborating with Placemaking Canada to bring a global placemaking summit to Toronto. There's about 20 co-volunteers bringing this event together. So if you are in Toronto or want to come to Toronto in June, I highly recommend this conference. I think Ethan will be putting a link in the chat as you're there. Next slide. And if you want to come to Halifax for some lobster, feel free. In September, we usually have the Art of City Building conference. So there's that. And one other conference and another excuse to get together is the Placemaking Week Europe in Italy, if you want to go even further across the pond. So the next, yeah, so the point of my presentation today, I was asked to do this and I thought, what should I really share? And people really told me that they love this presentation that I've given. So this is sort of a love letter to the Halifax waterfront and my time there. I come from Peggy's Cove. Peggy's Cove is a constantly changing place. Every day is different. The weather is different. And I also love my parents' kitchen. It is very small, cozy, warm. My mother's paintings, she passed away in the last year. So anyway, it's a still, I still very much love the place, and love this area down here. So when I think of placemaking, I constantly think of my parents' kitchen and the dynamic landscape of Peggy's Cove. But things changed for me a few years ago when I attended a conference in Amsterdam. The mayor of the city passed away, and his parting words to his citizens were to be sweet and be kind to each other, and be sweet and be kind to your city. And those words totally changed my outlook on placemaking and urban planning. Um, it shifted the thinking from livability and and sort of what we need to do, and just the constant change, to like how do we focus on things that make our city more lovable. And it even changed how I take pictures. I started taking pictures of things that were more joyful, and made a positive impact. And right after that, during those travels, I went with my friends to Budapest, Hungary, and anyway, they end up getting engaged after this trip, and and they're married. So anyway, maybe my photos had a little impact on that. So yeah, so this is a bridge in Budapest, and so this I really love this photo here. It's of a dynamic sort of interactive fountain at a bus terminal, and this little girl was so excited by these random fountain jets that she actually had literal snot and drool coming out of her face. She was laughing so loud, and she was actually levitating when she was jumping. She was so happy. So how do we bring more of this to our cities? Again, after that trip, I started taking more pictures of Halifax, that and the things that made me uh, like it, and think feel, yeah, the more lovable aspects of Halifax. Next picture. Yeah, next. These are just some examples of the beautiful, colorful city of Halifax. So the waterfront in Halifax wasn't always a lovable place. In the 80s, it was quite dilapidated, and today, yeah, it's a space like this where people love to be. Um, Keep going, Gil. It used to be a place of parking and oil cans, and now it's a place where this is the most popular destination on the waterfront. Um, Next. And it's still a place where it's a working waterfront, and industry interacts with people on the boardwalk. The other thing I love about the waterfront is, unlike other waterfronts, the Halifax waterfront is quite condensed, and has a lot of turns and jogs, so you're very aware of your surroundings, similar to this example in Montreal. Next slide. It's also important to think about public spaces as places to get away. A lot of people go to waterfronts as an escape from the city. So, and it's something we learned through our inclusive engagement process, to actually intentionally create spaces for calm. Next. One of my first tasks when I was at the waterfront was purchasing some movable furniture, and we'll see if this video works. Next one. Yes, so it's working. So yeah, so what we did is we purchased a number of bistro furniture examples similar to what was in Bryant Park, and I sat down with it, put a camera down, and helped my colleague put out the furniture. And as you can see, such a simple intervention of creating places for people to sit will immediately make a place more inviting and welcoming. So it doesn't take big interventions to make change in public space. Next. Another project we worked on were the hammocks on the waterfront, and uh, we were working on this project, and a bit of serendipity that happened is when we were designing them, I sort of put my foot down that I had to be able to fit in them as someone 6'6", so we had to make them 8 feet long. And just by happenstance, when we installed them, we realized that by making them a little bigger, multiple people could get in them. And so if you flip forward to the video, Gil, people also tend to love the sense of weightlessness and movement in it. So rather than just creating static furniture elements, try to incorporate a sense of movement as well. Anyway, there's lots of people laughing in this video too because they're enjoying so much, and they're even popular when it's 0 degrees out and through the winter. Next slide. And the hammocks also inspired us in designing new sun loungers because people were asking for shade. But instead of just creating sun loungers for one person, we made them big enough for 3 people. Next. One of my favorite projects and potentially the one with the lowest cost overall was we worked with an artist to create a painted chalk obstacle course along the waterfront. Erica Mendez used to work with Veith House. She came up with this brilliant series of chalk obstacle courses, and I think it's the most interactive element on the Halifax waterfront, and people constantly say how much they love it. Next. Another project that we did actually before I started on the waterfront was we worked with kids at the museum to design their new playground. The playground they had was falling apart, so we worked with them. Next slide, Gil. Just some examples of their drawing. Yep. So these are some great ideas they had. One of them was a submarine, and we worked with local boat builders to design and fabricate the submarine. Next. And you can see how popular it was on opening day, and it is in the summertime especially. It has this, and it even ended up on The Simpsons somehow. Next. So another fun thing we did is we had to figure out getting around a big construction site, and a creative solution was to buy a bunch of floating docks that we needed and string them together and put it out across the water. And next video. And it's hard to get a sense with this video, but there was quite a bit of motion involved, and people really loved going down and being next to the water, like within a foot of the water. And that made us realize that we needed to provide opportunities for people to get not just to the water's edge, but to the water. Next. And to that extent, we piloted a swimming day with a student from Dalhousie, Annika Ryapel. And, I think 200 people came out that day. But the big lesson for me that day was when we took the boats away to allow the swimming to happen, it also allowed people generally to just come down on the docks and be next to the water. And when Harmonic Richness, the local clarinet player, came down for his usual busking slot, people started dancing next to him on the docks. So another project I worked on was the Halifax Salt Yard. And before we started it, we engaged the community, did a project for public spaces place games, asking people how comfortable they felt, what they would like to do, what they would like to see. And yep, keep going. And this site had about 42 parking spaces, and I challenged people to think not just about what they would like to do, but like what are the 10 things you would like to experience for each of the human senses. Next. And through these engagement processes, I've also had my eyes opened by Yuta Treviranus at OCAD on the incredible perspectives of inclusive design, and not just engaging people that can come, but also intentionally seeking and reaching out to people through their networks and for unique perspectives that you may not have access to. The space opened less than a year later with about 20 food and beverage operations, or 20 small business opportunities and 3 food and beverage operations. And it is now the most popular space on the Halifax waterfront. And I think the numbers are, it makes about $10 million in 4 months. And per square foot, that's better than most high-end shopping malls in Canada. But it is the most popular spot on the waterfront. So that's what sells it for me. Next slide. You can see how we just sort of worked on the existing parking lot. We piloted fire pits. Next. I'm going to wrap. Keep going. There's small format vendor opportunities with 1 week options. It's a center for music and entertainment. And within a couple years, it was voted the number 2 music venue for Black artists in Nova Scotia. Next. Keep going. And then, yeah.
And make this place look and sound beautiful. Ready?
So this is one of my favorite moments. The Black Gumfalosi from Zimbabwe singing "The Lion Sleeps Tonight" to locals and tourists in what was a parking lot of 42 parking spaces. Next. It's also a place where our Indigenous community has hosted the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and there are currently 2 businesses operating that are Indigenous owned. And I want to wrap up quickly by saying, when I got back from that trip from Amsterdam, focusing on lovability, I pulled a pizza out of the oven and I tried to shape it, and it somehow came out in a heart shape, and it made me realize that we're all working with, the same ingredients, the pizza, the pepperoni, the cheese, the tomatoes. We're all working with the same ingredients, but it's taking a few seconds to realize how we can shape them. Next slide. And remember to think of the snot and drool. We need more snot and drool in our cities, and to be sweet and be kind to each other and our cities. Thank you.
Okay, and I want to ask both of you to close with a call to action. I wish we had much more time, but what would be a call to action? We have people here from Portugal and Kenya and Paraguay, all over the US, all over Canada, Denmark, and so on. What would you tell them? Why does placemaking matter? Why is it important to engage the community before, during, after? How is it important to personally make sure that all community is really taken care of, not just do a public meeting at City Hall at 7 p.m. where no one shows up? Why does this matter? Why should cities be concerned and supportive of placemaking? And this is the last question. So give us an inspiring call to action to people from all over the world. And I hope that you, as well as everyone participating, will connect 2 weeks from today, where the guest speaker is going to present on the missing middle. So either one of you, start.
Yeah. I'll do a quick one, Gil. When we did our inclusive engagement process on the waterfront, members of our own team said that we thought we knew what the solution was to designing some of the public spaces. And after the inclusive engagement process, where we intentionally reached out to people that had unique perspectives in the community, it was a total eye-opener for our team on how little we knew as professionals after 10 years of working on the waterfront. I'll put a link into the chat of the document of the wisdom that we received through that process. So I think just start talking to people, especially people that have different perspectives than yours.
And adding to what TJ said, I just want to say that I was just it's 6 months after Hurricane Helene, and I was in Asheville, North Carolina. And when a natural disaster happens, the first people that you can rely on is not your phone, is not your car, is not your, it's nothing but your neighbor. And knowing your neighbors is actually the first line of defense before anybody comes. And it could take weeks before people come and weeks before you can have food. So knowing who your neighborhood is the most important thing. And I think that the building those connections early on and knowing them at all times is the first sign of relief. And the more disconnected we are, the more we all suffer. So it's a proven fact when you actually see the things that are happening with climate, etc. And it's important to know who your neighbor is.
And a message for everyone. The most important learning on placemaking, I received many years ago from Fred Kent. Fred Kent, the creator of PPS, Project for Public Spaces, and he continues to lead, and his son Ethan with Placemaking Next. But Fred said, in placemaking, the community is the expert. Always keep in mind, in placemaking, the community is the expert. You need to start with a blank page, Go to the community before you have drawn any line. If you are gonna do a park on a parking lot, go to the community and say, okay, we are thinking about this. What would you like? So the community is the expert to decide the what. Once you know what is it that you want, then you invite the professionals, the planners, the architects on the how, because the community might want to have a walking path, but maybe the community doesn't know if it's 2 meters or 6 meters, if it should be artificial turf for grass. But the professionals do the master plan. Then you go back again to the community and you said, this seems to be what we heard from you. Are we moving in the right direction? And then afterwards, so always start with a blank page before you have done anything, and the community is the expert. And Madeleine and TJ and every one of the hundreds of people, thank you for showing up. Thank you, Madeleine and TJ. It was an amazing presentation. I'm sorry about the technical hiccups, but the message came out very clear on why is it that placemaking is so useful and it's so powerful, because the community is the expert. It's about listening much more than talking and making sure that everyone is involved. Your examples were powerful, and I hope that everyone that watches this video will share it with decision makers, elected officials, city staff, advocates, the media, friends, or at school, universities, high schools. And I hope that everyone will be back in 2 weeks, every other Tuesday, always free. Thank you.